Good morning, Hillcrest family and friends. I'm Joan Eppiheimer, and today is day 24 of our season of Thanksgiving, Praise, and Prayer. I've entitled today's message, Choosing Gratitude. Let's read from the New International Version. We're going to read Philippians 1:12 through 18, portions of it. It has become clear that I am in chains for Christ, and because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear. The important thing is that in every way Christ is preached, and because of this I rejoice. Yes, and I will continue to rejoice. These words were written while Paul was imprisoned and in some type of physical bondage, often translated chains. Yet despite these circumstances, Paul rejoices. Did Paul enjoy being in prison? I think not. Rather, Paul had a larger view of God than many of us have. A view that saw beyond his own situation, beyond his discomfort and confinement to see the bigger picture. Instead of focusing on himself, he looked externally, outside of himself, and consequently, he saw what God was doing. Because of his imprisonment, people were sharing the gospel more, and in this he rejoiced. Would Paul have rejoiced in life if this had not happened? Based on what we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 through 28, I believe he would. I believe he did. Here Paul recounts a long list of hardships that he faced, and he goes on to speak of the thorn in his flesh that he pleaded with God to remove. Yet despite all of this, Paul wrote that he took pleasure in it because God's power was being made perfect in his weaknesses. Joy and pleasure are emotions, but they are also a choice. Paul chose to take pleasure in his hardships because God worked through them. He chose to rejoice in prison because of what God was doing as a result. How do we make this choice? It's a combination of our faith and our will. If we truly believe that God is a good God and is all-powerful, then we can relinquish our wills to his will and trust that there is a reason for our circumstances. David Wilkerson, a country preacher and founder of the Christian rehabilitation program Teen Challenge in the early 1960s, was duped into holding up a large black Bible while exiting a courtroom in New York City when he was trying to begin a work there. Photographers snapped his picture, and the next day, a photo of a wild-eyed, Bible-waving preacher who was being thrown out of the courtroom was plastered all over the newspapers. Humbled and embarrassed, he still felt a strong leading to return to the city the following week. As he was walking down a street in the city trying to sense God's direction, he heard someone call out, "Hey, Davy!" Aware that no one there knew him, he continued, and then he heard, "Hey, Davy, preacher!" It was a group of 7 gang members who had seen his picture in the paper, and his being thrown out of the courtroom had endeared him to these very youth that he wanted to reach. Had David not exercised his will to obey God and return to the city, he would never have had this divine encounter, which helped lead to the start of an addiction recovery program which is worldwide today. Joy results when it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, and the life which I now live, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and delivered himself up for me. Galatians 2:20. May we learn the art of choosing to rejoice, enabled by our faith in God's character and our yielding to his good will and the presence of Christ abiding in us. Thank you, Father, that the sun is still there even when we don't see it shining. And thank you that you are there even when you appear silent. For a challenge, Corrie ten Boom, a prisoner who harbored Jews during World War II, learned to thank God even for things that she was not grateful for. As she did, God often revealed to her reasons behind the circumstances. So my challenge to you is to make a list of 5 things that you are grateful for and 5 things that you're not grateful for. Then begin to thank God for all 10 things daily and see what happens. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a blessed day.